Hello, everyone. I'm coming with y'all with an update on the wildfires here in California, and this is from News 4 LA, I believe, in Los Angeles County, California. Let's get into it, shall we?
As we get situated here, but raging house fire. We are in Studio City now.
Well, Michael, as I look at that, it almost looks like there are two houses on fire here. As you can see, there's some tall trees around here. What did she say? This is on Sunswept Drive?
And Vanetta, from what I understand. This obviously a huge structure fire in the Studio City area. And again, it's calling to your point. I've seen big homes, but this obviously looks much larger than just one home, perhaps one, two, if not three properties here.
Well, there's definitely a lot of fuel. I'm looking back to see if Melissa is there. Is there a wind situation or wind problem in Studio City right now?
It's actually pretty calm, relatively speaking, Colleen and Michael. The winds are out of the north-northwest right now at 11 miles per hour, but it's dry. Winds sustain at about 9 miles per hour and relative humidity dropping down into the single digits. But looking at the pictures here, I'm seeing what you're seeing as well. Two homes on fire, and behind the larger home, there's a lot of brush here. So this is a big concern. And like Conan was saying in his live shot there at the Sunset Fire, we're dealing with winds that look like they're traveling up that hill. So as we see these flames shoot out ahead of where the actual fire is taking place, it actually helps to preheat the fuel out ahead of that. And then you look well past those homes, looks like there's another row of homes behind that. So this is a big concern because it's looking like it's in a residential area right now. But in terms of the winds, it's fairly light, relatively speaking, to what we've been seeing. But the humidity is dropping. It looks like a really tough situation in terms of the firefight because of the structure of the homes, and some of those roads look fairly narrow as well.
I'm looking at this. I'm a little familiar with the area. I'm trying to figure out if it's north or south of Ventura Boulevard here. It almost appears to be south of the boulevard as you go up the hill here. But what you can't help but notice is that there is a lot of vegetation around there. And, the real job for firefighters right now is to keep these embers, even with the lack of wind out there, keep these embers from spreading to other houses and into the surrounding brush.
That's right. I mean, if you're looking at the direction of the winds are actually picking up some of those flames right now and carrying them over into some of those treetops. And like we've been seeing with all of our fires the past night, is that the embers don't have to travel far to set something else ablaze. So it's really concerning because, initially the fires that we were watching, they started out in relatively remote locations. And then because of the winds, they swept down into areas that were widely populated. And we're starting to see that right now, even with this fire that's breaking out in Studio City with multiple homes on fire. And even behind those homes, the fire looks like it's raging uphill. And it looks like there's another row of homes behind that.
I point this out to you and Michael and our viewers here. Look at the wood, I don't know what it is. It's a staircase or a trellis or something like that, just off top side of your screen there. This is a 4-story home. And it just appears to be gone.
Yeah, Colleen, this is, if I'm getting my
Maybe
bearings
not wood, I'm looking at it.
correct here, but this is, in fact, as I try to map it here, this is Sunswept and Vanetta. Vanetta. And if I'm looking at this correctly, and I don't want to misspeak here, but I believe it's butted right up behind Fryman Canyon in Studio City. So obviously we talk about, once again, Melissa, a canyon, vegetation, dry vegetation at that, and low humidity levels.
What's so interesting is that we've got the Sunset Fire and we have that evacuation perimeter, which is basically from the 101 down to Hollywood Boulevard and then up past portions of Laurel Canyon and Mulholland Drive. And then on the other side of Laurel Canyon, you're moving into the valley with that fire breaking out there. So we are tracking the winds. It's light, but the flames are starting to get pushed uphill because of all of that vegetation.
It's so much fuel there, whether it's coming from the house vegetation around there. Julia Dang is back with us right now. Julia, we talk about Fryman Canyon. Michael looked that up on the map here. That's a lot like Runyon Canyon in that it's, sort of a wilderness area where a lot of people like to hike. It's very natural, a lot of vegetation.
That's exactly right, and it is a recipe for this kind of disaster. What you're looking at here, not just a house fire, but multiple homes now on fire. This is what we were afraid of when we saw that fire in the Hollywood Hills, right? We were looking at how close it was burning to homes along Wattle Drive. This is what we were terrified could happen, and it looks to me like this house is about to collapse. This 4-story house at the center of this firefight. We counted 2 homes on fire here, but I'm hearing it might actually be 3 structures. I'm trying to figure out if anybody was home when this started. I don't see any cars in this driveway, just firefighters. And look at that, this home now collapsing. Embers exploding from this house on Sunswept Drive at Veneta Place. This is south of Ventura Boulevard in Studio City, just behind Fryman Canyon. This is absolutely horrific.
This is so sad.
What does the adjacent property look like? We see the second home on fire there. Can you pull out just a little bit and give us sort of an idea of how close in proximity the other homes are, what's around it?
This house looks like it could be on the verge of collapse as well. This fire, it's wind driven still. Wind's not.
40% of the male population is considered big and tall. 40%. Now imagine there was a place where those 40% could buy clothes that, wait for it, fit them. Crazy, right? DXL. Wear what you want.
Which I took very seriously, by the way, and it was one of the most difficult things I've ever had.
You're right,
Yeah.
a guest house or something like that. or
And then
garage.
perhaps something behind with a higher elevation. But no matter how you put it, Julia, what you just mentioned is absolutely true. This is emotional to watch. You feel for the families, and I guess and even that homeowner that lives next door. Perhaps they don't know at this point what is going to happen possibly with their property and with their livelihood.
And look at this. We're flying around the back of this property or properties now, and you can see this fire behavior that Melissa just mapped out. This is burning quickly uphill. So as I zoom out, and they're going in right now with a water drop, attacking this not just from the ground, but from the air as well. And they're doing that right in time because you can see how high these flames are burning. There is another street behind Sunswept Drive. I think we have the map overlay on here. This is behind Sunswept Drive at Veneta Place. There are additional homes here in Studio City that are right behind this fire. All of these homes now at risk.
And one of the big risks here is if this fire continues into Fryman Canyon, it can then make a run all the way up to Mulholland. And before you get to Mulholland, there's a development there, a home development of the Donias, I believe. I don't remember the names of the streets except for one up there, Doña Vida, on that particular side. But I mean, think about the brush in Fryman Canyon here and what could happen if that takes off.
Yeah, well, lucky we have fire crews here on the ground. Julia, and correct me if I'm wrong, did you mention that they're attacking this obviously from the ground? Any air support at this point?
Yeah, we just caught what looked like a water drop from a helicopter. It was in the corner of our frame. But as Colleen was talking about all the dry brush in the canyon that could further fuel this fire, right? Look at these trees. We saw this igniting live as she was talking about that. But they are attacking this aggressively from the ground, from the air. I don't know if they're making much progress.
You couldn't tell looking at the flames out there. They don't seem to have died down. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michael and Melissa and Julia, isn't this sort of the general area where they had a mudslide and a couple of homes came down the hill within the past year or so, maybe 2 years tops? Do you remember that at all, Melissa?
Yeah, we had so many huge rainstorms. It was either our December rainstorm or it was February and March when we were dealing with horrific rain across that region. But as Julia pulled out a little bit, even though we're watching this home unfortunately collapse, it looks like on the other side of the hill, there were some other spots of fire. Do you see that? Just on the other side of Sunswept Drive?
I noticed that, yeah.
I just went hiking recently in Fryman Canyon, and I was thinking to myself as I was traveling through the trails, a lot of the trees, a lot of the brush really overgrown and really dry. So there's a lot of fuel for this fire to work with, unfortunately, as we watch really dry conditions, not only on the ground, but because of the Santa Ana winds drying out the atmosphere as well.
It makes you wonder if this was actually the initial ignition point or if this is perhaps a casualty of something that was burning earlier in the area. I mean, you see flames off to the left, flames that aren't as, aggressive yet. What came first, the chicken or the egg here?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. Julia, are you still with us? Can you hear me?
Gotcha, Colleen. Staying with you. We don't know where this fire started, if this property or properties were a casualty of something nearby, but I can tell you this dry brush, this fuel that Melissa was just talking about, this is burning.
Oh, yeah,
and we don't see this being attacked by firefighters on the ground or in the air just yet. So this is going to continue exploding. Look at this. The trunk of this tree now up in flames.
How unusual is it to see choppers dropping water on a residential area with homes like that? I mean, we see it so often with brush, but I don't recall it being the norm when you talk about a house fire in any kind of neighborhood.
I think at this point, with one house already collapsing and all of these homes packed in so tightly here with brush surrounding these properties, I don't know if they have any choice. The ground attack, unable to get this under control. I think they have to go in with helicopters at this point because this is burning uphill, because there is additional brush and so many more homes beyond this, north of this collapsed home on Sunswept Drive. It looks like they have fire apparatus already standing by north of Sunswept Drive. Looks to me like residents have already evacuated.
And just as we mentioned, I believe with Robert Kovacic with that fire, Sunset Fire burning in the Hollywood Hills, everything is so tightly packed in and dense. I mean, and you add that to the fact that there are narrow roads up in that area, the fact that you can even get fire apparatus up in that area, as many as we see in this live shot here, is pretty incredible.
Julia, what are they?
These narrow winding canyon roads. We saw the trouble they had earlier with the Sunset Fire. Firefighters trying to get in as residents were trying to get out. So here, at least, we have multiple fire engines already stationed on the ground. We've got 2 dedicated to this portion of the firefight to the south of this home.
Julia, what are they doing on those homes just above this? I believe it was Good View or Good Something Avenue there. You said it appeared they had been evacuating people there. Is there structure protection going on as well?
That's what it looks like to me. I'm counting 1, 2, 3 fire trucks stationed up here. I do not see residents walking around. Oh, my pilot's warning me right now. There's another hotspot igniting right now. Look at this.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just beyond Viewcrest Road. That's what our helicopter map is telling us.
Might be a little difficult for you to tell me this or not, Julia, but is what on fire? Is this brush or is this another property? What can you tell from your
dry brush to me.
Dry brush.
This looks like dry brush to me, and even though this seems to be burning more aggressively than what we're seeing on Sunswept Road, we're not seeing helicopters attacking this just yet. We don't see any fire apparatus on the ground here because it's a little bit farther out from homes. So when it comes to prioritizing, it's going to be those properties first.
How close is Laurel Canyon to all of this?
You know what? Let me zoom out and get you that answer, Colleen.
Just to the east?
Yeah, that's going to be just to the east, and Fryman Canyon is going to be just to the south of what you're seeing.
All right, so we are pushing in here to Sunswept and Vanetta Place, where you see LAFD here aggressively attacking that house fire. We believe it's a 4-story property, and again, you see other units here along the road in place for structure protection, but peppered around the major fire is what we're looking at here. A lot of these hot spots, and it begs asking, what is this a result of the larger fire? Is the larger fire the result of what we're looking at here? So, investigators, I should say, the firefighters certainly have their hands full with this one. That is for sure.
Yeah, where we're stationed now, we are to the. Sorry, Colleen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you've been over this for what, 10 minutes tops? And you see how quickly this has moved and how the smoke has changed from, well, the smoke hasn't changed at all. There's a little bit of white smoke out there, but mostly black smoke. It was all flames when you pulled over the scene.
It is all flames, and the house that collapsed, it's still burning. They still cannot put out those flames. In just under 15 minutes, we saw what started with one structure on fire turn into 2, possibly 3. And as I'm speaking, the entire left side of my screen is now obscured by smoke. But we have seen this traveling before our eyes up to the north, and these embers, these hot spots, are now threatening what looks like the backyard of the house on this street parallel to Sunswept Drive up to the north. So they're stationed up here. LAFD is stationed up here trying to protect these structures. It could be a long night here in Studio City.
Once again, we are looking at either a house and a garage or a second home, 2 homes at least, on fire here on Vanetta and Sunswept Way. This is in the Fryman Canyon area. You see firefighters being very, very aggressive in how they're fighting this one, as they have been throughout, the past couple of days, fighting all these fires. But the problem here is if any of these flames, any of these hot spots get into Fryman Canyon, that means that fire can make a run all the way up through Mulholland.
What we've seen thus far is not only this fire burning here, but a few spot fires around this fire, and then off in the distance quite a way, we see another vegetation fire that Julia pointed out to us. But again, the priority, as you see from the ground units here, obviously the larger of the fire here, and we've also seen airdrops here. So again, a massive attack on this fire. Right now, you see firefighters pulling hoses here up the staircase.
That's the staircase.
Yeah, and again, not too long ago, Julia brought us a live picture of what appeared to be the roof of that main house collapsing, or at least the walls and the roof, a combination of both, or perhaps one. But again, a major collapse happening here on this property here on Sunswept and Vanetta.
Julia, if you're still with us, we're looking at really a tight shot of what's going on in that one particular property. How close are all these other homes? And give us an idea of what firefighters are doing to protect those homes. Like across the street on Vanetta Place and just above it as well.
These homes are steps away from each other. As you were asking me that, one of the firefighters on the ground started shining his flashlight on this house to the right of the one that collapsed. You can see his ladder right now going up the side of it. It looks like they might be soaking some of these adjacent structures to protect them. I don't know how much more they can do with all of this brush. It's a little too late to start clearing that brush, but I was zoomed in tight, Colleen, on these firefighters running that hose up this staircase because I don't know how secure those stairs are. I mean, just feet away, this 4-story home collapsed moments ago live on air. I don't know if standing on those stairs, those wooden stairs, is the best idea right now, but clearly they feel this is how they have to up their fight. They're trying to get aggressive on all sides. You can see this stream of water from down below. This is to the south of the property or properties. We're still trying to confirm if this was 2 structures on one property or 2 adjacent homes. That's how quickly this broke out and how quickly that first structure collapsed. But Colleen, to your question, how close are the other homes? It looks like there might be hotspots already traveling into the backyard of this road to the north of Sunswept Drive. So these LAFD fire trucks not moving, firefighters standing by, and we will see what kind of defensive tactics they might take to protect the rest of the homes in this community.
All right, Julia, if you can hold tight, we're going to keep your picture up. And on the phone with us now was Dr. Ron Marinaro. Ron, you live in Studio City. You can actually see the flames. Not only do you live there, but you have a business in the area.
Yes, my business is about a couple of blocks from here on Ventura, and my mom lives 1 block next to Whitsett, and they're the ones that made me aware of the fire, so I went over and they evacuated. The fire started about maybe 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago, and already within 5 minutes there was a helicopter there with water, which is pretty quick. But I could see it spreading. Embers are spreading. It's on the flats, but I can see people watering down their houses here, and a lot of people have their baggage and are leaving the area. I guess they're panicked because of what's been going on.
Doctor, you said it's in the flats. Is that what I heard you say?
No. It's in the hills. I'm in the flats.
Oh, you're in the flats. Okay, got it.
And
because we had heard it was in Fryman Canyon. Are you familiar with the street at all?
No. Fryman Canyon's on Laurel Canyon. This is west of Fryman Canyon, a little bit up in the hill from Ventura Boulevard. But it's west of Laurel Canyon or Fryman Canyon. And it looks like it's a house that is burning and it's spreading. But the fire department's there, the helicopters are there, and I don't know, the winds aren't that bad. Because actually, it's barely breezy.
Is it closer to Coldwater Canyon, or is it sort of situated between the two?
Between the two. It's between the two.
Okay. A lot of people who drive over Coldwater Canyon are familiar with, if you look up on the side of the street, I believe it's the east side of the street, you'll see a lot of homes on stilts and caissons up there. How close is it to that?
It's east of that. If you go by city blocks, maybe 3 city blocks east of that.
Doctor, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's in the hills, so I could see helicopters around there. The fire department said there's a fire station right at the bottom of the hill, so they were there very quickly.
Doctor, anytime you see a fire in the hills, we talk about how densely populated, how close the properties are up in the hills with those narrow, windy roads. It's got to really make you think. What do you feel when you see what you're looking at right here?
Well, the main thing is a fire truck, they might be able to get up if there's no cars blocking, but I don't know how they're going to get down. It's very narrow, very narrow. This is going to have to be done from the air or by foot. The irony of all this is I live in Malibu Park, Malibu, and I came here because, the fires are getting close to me there. And now up the street, there's another fire and on Whitsett.
There'd been some speculation that maybe an ember had flown from Runyon Canyon into this area, and Michael and I are looking at it and thinking that's a long ways to go, especially when the wind is not gusting as much as it was last night. But we now know that LA County says this is a 4-story home. This fire is not related at all to what was going on in the Sunset Fire. So we just want clarification on this. Embers may be flying around this, but this fire started a whole different way.
This came from.
Doctor, you still with us at all?
No wind, so hopefully they can contain this.
We were wondering as well. We heard this is close to Westlake, Harvard Westlake. Can you give us an idea of how far?
Harvard Westlake is on Coldwater near Ventura, so this is probably, like I said, 3 city blocks east of that. And maybe a little bit further up the hill, but not much. It's really closer to the boulevard than on the top of the hill.
We've been told that you got a call from your daughter reporting the fire. How is she? How is the rest of your family?
They left and went over to my place. So now they're a little panicked because of all that's going on. And as I noticed in the streets, I'm on that near Whitsett, people are grabbing their belongings and leaving, and other people are watering down the house as they find out about this fire.
Doctor, have you received any notices or anything like that for your family to be on alert because of the fires in the area?
No.
Okay, I'm just wondering because we're receiving a warning from the LAFD that I'm trying to find it again, that there may be a warning for people around the area. You know what? I take that back. We're going to get some clarification on that before we go with it, some confirmation. But there have been a lot of hot spots, and obviously we're seeing this fire's throwing hot spots as well.
Doctor, what do the next 24 to 48 hours look like for you and your family?
Okay, yeah, everyone seems to be on edge right now.
And they should be, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to ask you again what the next 24 to 48 hours looks like for you and your family in the midst of everything that's happening.
Well, we just moved to another place that's on Tahunga, and we're all going to be on alert.
Yeah. I think like the rest of Southern California at this point.
Yeah, it's stuff like this that helps. The minute someone finds something out, we called you up, and you guys are going to hopefully say something on the news so people know that their neighborhood is lighting up, because how else are they going to know? They're inside watching the news, and they're not watching the mountain or their neighborhood.
Well, we are doing our very best, Doctor, and we certainly
You're
appreciate...
doing a great job. I've been watching you all morning.
Oh, well...
All day, I mean. All day.
All day. The hours sort of all go together at some point, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to attend to my family, and I hope they put this out.
We appreciate you giving us a call and giving us your input and insight, and please stay safe, you and your family.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. All right, so that was Dr. Marinaro. He, has a business just off of Ventura Boulevard. He's about a quarter mile from what you're looking at here right now. He got the call from his daughter, who was hysterical. They've all since moved out. Mm-hmm. They're safe, and again, keeping up to date on what's happening by watching what's happening on the local news.
You know what was great? He was able to really pinpoint the location for us. We were in a whole different direction, thinking it was closer to the Studio City side of Laurel Canyon, and somewhere it's between Laurel Canyon and Coldwater Canyon. I see Melissa McGee is standing by right now as we continue to look at this picture from News Chopper 4. Give us an idea of the winds out there.
Like he said, the wind is barely breezy. Did you hear him say that? Also, the winds are fairly light. So we've got the winds coming in out of the northwest. Relative humidity, though, is dry. And he is correct in the sense that this fire is sandwiched in between Coldwater Canyon and Laurel Canyon, and it's south of the boulevard. Just to give people an idea of what's north of the boulevard, once you cross over Ventura, you're very close to Whitsett, which is where he was calling from. And also, if you continue to go further down Whitsett and then travel over to the west, you're close to the Sportsman Lodge area, where a lot of people are familiar with that. That's right off of Coldwater Canyon as well. So the winds are light, but it's dry, and it's moving into an area where there are a lot of homes. And like we've been seeing, it looks like it's going to be hard for evacuation in the sense that we're dealing with very narrow roads. So folks trying to get out as firefighters are trying to come up and battle the blaze there. And on top of that, you got hot spots that are moving in around that fire.
Melissa, Michael, I just found the information I was looking for. We got an alert from the LAFD regarding the fire burning near Laurel Canyon. And it says, and I'm quoting here, Laurel Canyon, Mulholland, Coldwater, Ventura Boulevard, those nearby need to be ready to evacuate, just in case there's a turn for the worse here.
And as we spoke to the doc not too long ago, he's within the vicinity, and he is heated again. This warning, he and his family are out, and they have moved to a safer place. And again, we'll just continue to see what happens as we continue to clock these fires all around Southern California.
Let's check back in with News Chopper 4 and Julia Deng for a look at the progress being made, and still a lot of fire out there. Julia?
Yeah, Colleen, you can see flames burning through the roof of this first structure that fell victim to this fire on Sunswept Drive. It collapsed on air, and now flames are just chewing through the roof. Firefighters have stationed themselves now on the adjacent property. You can see they're standing on the roof here and shooting water at these flames, but they still don't have this under control. And what's more, it looks like the adjacent structure is catching fire as well. Look at this. We were worried about the stairs that firefighters were going up to try and fight.
I just want to say real quick, prayers to the people out in California. And I also want to say, if you're in California and listen to this, there are numerous resources to help you. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources at this time. However, if you go east or west, you're probably, unfortunately, you're probably going to hit flames. Your best bet is to go south. Go south, which is away from the fires. If you try and go east, you're going to be going to fires. If you go west, you're going to be in the path of fire. Your best bet is to go south, down to San Diego if you are able. If you are not able, there should be shelters in your county to keep you safe from the fire. Thank you. And I also want to say,
area who has not done so already, now is the time to start packing your go bags.
I gotta say, from this vantage point, it looks as if things look slightly better than.
Slightly is a very good
I'm
word
going to use
here.
the word slightly. I mean, that's the caveat there. Slightly better than it did when you first rolled up, Julie.
Slightly better. We're seeing more smoke, less flames, but you got to take into consideration the direction of these flames. I think this house, at this first structure, it's burning out. It's burning to the ground, but flames are now spreading to the right. So there is an entire structure here for it to chew through. And then next to that, another one just steps away. And look at how closely these homes are packed together. Look at how narrow these canyon roads are. This is a recipe for a disaster, and LAFD knows that. That's why they're attacking this so aggressively, dedicating so many resources to this. We've seen 2 or 3 water drops from overhead already, about a dozen fire trucks here. They've got this surrounded on all sides. Dr. Ron also was talking about neighbors who are soaking their homes, trying to do anything proactive they can to protect their own properties.
Julia, are you seeing any of that there?
We're not seeing a lot of resident activity on this stretch of sun-swept drive, and that's probably good news. That means people have gotten out of here. They've gotten out of the way of the fire department. They're letting the professionals handle this, so they know where it is safe to set up. They know which roofs they can climb onto. They know which staircases they can drag their hose up. We haven't seen any additional structural collapse since that home, that 4-story home, went down. That was about 20 minutes ago now. We do have some new information that I want to repeat from the LA County Fire Department. They're now confirming this is not related to the Sunset Fire. This has nothing to do with what we covered earlier in the Hollywood Hills. So still unclear how this started, what sparked this, where it came from, but this is not related to what was happening on the other side of the hills.
And again, I think it bears repeating here, Colleen, that this fire burning near Laurel Canyon, Mulholland, Coldwater Canyon, Ventura Boulevard, those nearby should get set for what we're calling a potential evacuation. You know, they're being advised here to monitor local newscasts, LAFD social media. Again, evacuation preparation, info, just be ready, be set, and be ready to go.
Because we have seen how quickly things change. I mean, last night, never more evident. I mean, we had gusts, and then we had hurricane gusts later in the evening. And while our meteorologists tell us that's not going to happen, as Melissa pointed out, even a small gust is enough to fuel hotspots spotting ahead here.
Again, this is what we believe to be a 4-story structure here. Julia Deng live over at News Chopper 4, and we pulled up, what would you say, 20, 25 minutes ago. And when you rounded sort of the canyon there, boom, there it was. And, you know, though it's still engulfed now, we can say, or at least I will say, it looks slightly better, but the firefight here continues.
I would agree.
Do you know what's really fun? Making a website on Wix.
Sorry about that.
Hey, we're How Ridiculous, 3 childhood friends and digital content creators that do epic stuff from Perth, Australia.
We've got about 50 million followers. We're in the billions of views, and we're a small team. We always felt like our content was all about entertainment and being fun, but there was also this, sort of professional business side. One of the things that we knew was basically essential was getting our own website, so people would actually see a proper official group who mean business and who can deliver. And we now get unbelievable opportunities to do things like film balloon popping races with Manchester City. I don't know all the things that we're going to get to do in the next year or 5 years, but if we can do this as a job, anything's possible.
Of my screen over to the right-hand side, there's a house here that's several stories that could also go down. But firefighters now standing here shooting water from that property onto this first structure.
And looking at the number of engines on this narrow street, you have to think to yourself, if in fact residents there wanted to get out at this point, they would be hard pressed.
Might be a little tricky.
Yeah, to get a car or two out of there.
The advantage, at least for firefighters tonight, and Melissa can chime in once again on this, is the fact that unlike this time last night, we don't have those egregious winds to deal with. That is the break, at least for firefighters, whether it's the Sunset Fire, which from what I understand now is a mop-up mode, and this fire here.
Right, that's the saving grace. If this was happening last night, like you mentioned, it would be a bit of a different beast because we were dealing with unprecedented winds across our region. So imagine those winds where they are hurricane force, like Colleen was mentioning. Some spots we had winds up to 100 miles per hour. So that's a strong Category 1 storm. So imagine that wind down on the ground. Thankfully tonight, that's not the case. And like the gentleman we just interviewed, he said there in Studio City, it's barely breezy. But the problem is that it's so dry. It's really dry. And then you have all of that vegetation as that fire marches up the hill. It only helps to energize that fire and helps to move those flames along even faster than we would normally see.
Julia Dang live for us in News Shop Report. Julia, is this is this the same property or a different property here?
We're still trying to figure out if this is two separate properties. That was the first question we had when we pulled up about 30 minutes ago. We do know this is a separate structure. It could be an ADU, could be a neighboring property, but there's something, as we come around in the helicopter, there's something out front that appears to be flaring up. I think it's some more of that dry brush Melissa was just talking about. Let me zoom out here and just give you a wider shot of the firefight still underway. This looks better. This looks more hopeful than what we were seeing earlier. I'm seeing far less in the way of flames. Smoke seems to be lightening up as well, but this whole canyon now lit up. Look at all the fire apparatus there. I know it's probably hard to distinguish between what are embers here, what are hot spots, and what are lights from homes. So I'm going to zoom in on where the hot spots still are, what's still burning here. It's these orange patches within the dry brush. So look at this. There are firefighters surrounding this area trying to get this under control. You can see, though, if you take a look at the trees, you can see the difference in movement between what we're showing you now in Studio City versus what we showed you earlier this evening in the Palisades, where winds were still whipping. We do not have that here, so that may end up just being the saving grace here.
You know, earlier, Julia, we asked you about the proximity to Laurel Canyon. Now that we know it's closer, we believe, according to Dr. Ron, to Coldwater Canyon, can you give us a quick shot of that?
I can. So Laurel Canyon is going to be just to the east of here, and we are northwest of Fryman Canyon. We've been calling this whole region the Canyon. This is northwest of Fryman Canyon proper. So I'm going to show you this whole area, this busy, tightly packed residential area now lit up with these emergency vehicles. We haven't seen a lot of people trying to get out, so it looks to me like residents may have evacuated before we even got on scene. But that evacuation alert, that warning did come through on everyone's cell phones earlier, letting them know about a potential evacuation order. The mandatory order has not come down just yet, and if firefighters here can get this under control, we may not see forced evacuations.
What is that dark area that we're seeing from the chopper there? Is that an area where power is out, or more of a brushy area? I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I'm gonna cut this off and come back with a live stream on.
All right, so we